I'm Celina Stewart. I grew up in a military family, but we landed in Maryland. My father served 20 years in the United States Air Force, and then we moved to Maryland because both my parents got federal jobs. And so I'm an almost native to the DMV. I'll just say that. But when I went to college, I went to Spelman College. Spelman College is where I wanted to go since I was a very little girl. But I also was an athlete. So I played basketball. And so I got an academic scholarship to a school in New York. So I spent my first year in New York. But then my professor, the good woman that she is, said, you don't belong here. You need to be in a place where you can really be pushed because you're a person who is constantly trying to do bigger and better things. So she actually called Spelman and said, this woman needs to be at your university. And so my second year, I went to Spelman and it was like coming home. It was like coming home. So I went to Spelman finished out my time at Spelman and then actually went into politics. So I started working in state legislatures. I worked in Maryland. And then when I went to law school, I worked in Michigan. And then after law school, I came to Georgia, where I was a very new attorney, one of the youngest attorneys who led redistricting at that time. I was 28 years old. I was a baby. I was a baby leading redistricting. But we did, for the first time in Georgia at that time, built a rural tour because there were Black and white voters in rural areas that weren't being heard. And so we organized a rural tour to hear from those people so we could say, okay, when we go back to the state capitol, we're going to say, no, 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 you can't actually cut these communities because they come together and they vote as a community around this school or around this farm or around this particular issue. And so I've been doing that for a long time. And in law school, my mom was actually the one who told me or helped me understand what type of law I want to practice. So in law school, you have to take all these like foundational courses, right? Just like college, you got to take English, you got to take all things, right? So I was taking all these courses, and when it came to constitutional law, where you learned about civil rights and voting rights, I would come home and I would call my mom, and I was so pissed. I was like, oh my God, how could the Supreme Court do that? Why would this court decide this and decide that? And my mom was like, well, I guess you know what type of law you want to practice. And I was like, are you crazy? I would never do this. I'll have a heart attack doing this work. But I think that it was because I was so passionate about it. That is what got me out of bed and got me angry and passionate and all the things. So that is why I became a voting rights attorney. So after the 2016 election, there was the political climate was changing. And I had done politics, but I had always worked as a legislative aide, a policy person, really digging into issues, statutes, and things like that. And so when I came to the league, they said, well, we want you to build a litigation practice because I had been litigating at that time for, I don't know, almost a decade at that time. And so I came here, talked to the leagues and realized they are the perfect client. And we weren't litigating. The league was not litigating. We were filing amicus briefs, but we weren't filing plaintiff and intervener litigation. And that just means a plaintiff is a person who's injured or a group of people who are injured who bring an actual claim and say, hey, court, we've been harmed. An intervener is when a case is already established and we're coming in saying, hey, you're forgetting about this group of people. Usually we were intervening on behalf of voters. And so I launched that work at the league where we were bringing plaintiff and intervener litigation around voting rights, around redistricting. And so this is what I have been doing day in, day out for more than 20 years. And so this is not just about, this Joanna come lately. And I get it. Like when you're in a new town and you see a new face, you're just like, who that girl? Well, I'm the girl who's been behind the curtain helping and being an advisor to many of the top people in this country, top legislators, top political engines in this country. And now I'm pushed into this role where I'm now leading. And I try to be cool and not like flip off, and I just can't. I'm really passionate about it, and this is what I do. But I want people to understand that this is not something I'm just coming out of the corner to talk about. This is something I've been doing behind the scenes for more than 2 decades.